Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NBA DFS Core Pick video for today, Friday, December 1st. If you are joining me for the very first time, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over a recap of yesterday's picks. We'll go over to the injury report over on RotoWire today. It's a 6-game main slate in total, so a pretty small Friday slate, but looking like a crazy one already as we did get some pretty big news so far early on to start the day, and some more news that could be expected to change the slate in a big way as well. Then we'll get moved over to DraftKings and FanDuel and talk about my core picks on both sites. It's going to be one player at each position. So point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. But without further ado, we'll get started with that recap of yesterday's picks. So yesterday ultimately ended up being a pretty interesting slate. A lot of value that did open up throughout the day. Did remain pretty steady with my core that I did have at the beginning of the day, although I did kind of play some of that value alongside this core throughout multiple lineups. So on the DraftKings side, at point guard, we won Jalen Brunson, $8,400, looking for 42 points on him, got to 66.5, so he was a really good hit on yesterday's slate. At shooting guard, we swapped over to Klay Thompson after it was announced that Jaden Ivey would not be starting for the Pistons last night. He was $6,400, looking for 32 points on him, got to 35.5, so he was a hit. Then at small forward, we went with Kyle Anderson, who was a pretty popular player altogether yesterday. $4,500, thought he'd be in that starting lineup, but ultimately wasn't too majorly concerned about that. We were looking for 22, 23 points on him, got to 14.25, so he was a miss. Only ultimately ended up playing 19 minutes in this game, which is a lot less than I was expecting, and 2 for 7 shooting from the field, although he did have like 6 assists in the game. Then at power forward, we had Saddiq Bey at $5,500, looking for 27, 28 points. I'm only got 25 yesterday. He's a miss. Mainly just scored the ball, so can't really say too much there. Was a little bit unfortunate, but kind of that mid-price range for power forwards on both sides was looking pretty good yesterday, so mix and match of those guys did make some sense. And then last but not least, at the center position, we went with Ivica Zubac at $5,500. Looking for 27, 28 on him, got to 37.75, so he was a hit. So a little bit of hit or miss on the DraftKings side. Hopefully you guys got to some of the better value plays on yesterday's slate. Made it quite an interesting slate, at least on the DraftKings side yesterday. Then on the FanDuel side, we went with Mike Conley at point guard, $5,300. They're looking for 26, 27 points. I'm got 26.1. Technically, I did give him a push since he was on the lower end, but you can call it a hit at the same time if you want to. Played him and Jalen Brunson at the point guard spots in a lot of my lineups yesterday, so that part was really good. Then at shooting guard, we have Klay Thompson, $5,800, looking for 29 fantasy points at him, got to 33.2, so he was a really good hit on the FanDuel side as well. Small forward, we went with Simone Fontecchio once again, $4,200, looking for 21 points at him, got to 30.5, so really good day for him overall. If you got to him, you got to some Ochai Agbaji from that Utah Jazz team, you're probably doing pretty well just in general. And then at power forward, kind of our one lone miss on the day on the FanDuel side, we had DeAndre Hunter, $5,500, looking for 27, 28 points at him. Unfortunately, only got to 22.2. He was a mess. He only ultimately ended up playing 22 minutes in this game because he did foul out. So foul trouble was very real there, but like I said yesterday, I got a lot of guys in that kind of mid 5K to low 6K price range that I did like at power forward. If you got to like some PJ Washington, that ended up as a pretty good play just in general. Similar price tag there. And then last but not least, we had Mark Williams, $6,400, looking for 32 points down, got to 39.9. So he was a really good hit on yesterday's slate overall. So a pretty solid day on the FanDuel side. If you had some other good plays alongside this, had a pretty easy chance of cashing on yesterday's slate, especially if you swapped out Hunter with one of those other power forward options in that similar price range. But with that being said, we're going to get moved over to RotoWire and talk about the injuries in play for tonight's slate. And like I mentioned, it's a 6-game main slate in general. It is going to be a pretty crazy one as we already do have some pretty big news at this point in time. But we're going to start off with the Washington Wizards, who are without Ryan Rollins and DeLon Wright once again, so no changes there whatsoever. Orlando Magic have Markelle Fultz and Wendell Carter both out once again tonight. And then Jonathan Isaac listed as questionable due to ankle. He has not played their 2 most recent games. Jet Howard, who really hasn't been in the rotation at all whatsoever, is listed as questionable for tonight's game. And then Paolo Banchero listed as probable. He did tweak his ankle in their most recent game against this Washington team as well. Then we move over to the Philadelphia 76ers. Daniel House and Kelly Oubre are both out once again. Joel Embiid is listed as questionable due to illness. He was a late scratch 2 nights ago. He did not travel with the team to Boston. Doesn't sound like he's going to participate and shoot around. We'll see whether or not he ultimately ends up playing tonight or not. But if he's out, going to open up some value there, whether it's Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, or Paul Reed, one of those 3 that you want to play. Somebody's ultimately going to pay off in that lineup overall. But definitely going to be an interesting one to follow as the day moves along. And then we have Jaden Springer listed as probable. He missed their 2 most recent games due to illness, but should be back tonight. And then Nick Batum listed as probable. He's dealing with a finger injury. Probably not a guy I'm going to get to just overall tonight, but he's relatively cheap. So if you get to him in a couple lineups, not the end of the world, but did leave their most recent game with that finger injury. So we'll just have to see if he's ultimately good to go tonight or not, but does sound like he's on the right track. And then on the Boston Celtics side, just Kristaps Porzingis out once again. So there's no real changes for them. Going to look pretty similar to their most recent game. For the Memphis Grizzlies, we have Brandon Clark, Luke Kennard, Jake LaRavia, John Morant, Marcus Smart all out once again. Xavier Tillman is questionable for tonight's game. If he's able to go, takes away some center minutes from Bismack Biyombo, Jaren Jackson, Santi Aldama if they were going to actually play him at center. So a lot of those guys could see a little bit of a downtick in minutes, but we'll see what ultimately ends up happening as the day moves along. Then for the Dallas Mavericks, Maxi Kleber remains out, but he is joined in a big way today by Luka Doncic, who's out for personal reasons. So this Dallas Mavericks team is going to look pretty good overall. Dante Exum also joins them out. He was the guy that maybe starts at point guard tonight if they really wanted him out there in that starting lineup. I personally believe it's just going to be Kyrie Irving, Josh Green, Derrick Jones Jr., Grant Williams, and Derek Lively either way, so I wasn't too concerned about that. You can play Jaden Hardy. You can get to some Seth Curry if you really want to do so as well. And then Tim Hardaway Jr., this is questionable. He's dealing with some back spasms. We'll see whether or not he plays tonight or not. Typically, guys coming off back injuries, especially shooters, are not ones that I like getting to myself personally. Then we move down to the New York Knicks. They are on the back-to-back. They appear to be all the way healthy, but if there's any other changes that happen throughout the day, we'll list them down in the comments below. Toronto Raptors just without Christian Koloko once again. Then we move over to San Antonio Spurs, who are also on the back-to-back. Sounds like Victor Wembanyama could ultimately end up missing today. Doug McDermott ultimately missed yesterday due to illness, so we'll see what their injury report looks like as the day moves along, though. And then for the New Orleans Pelicans, Larry Nance is out for the foreseeable future. Matt Ryan is doubtful for tonight's game. But then we do have some good news, and Trey Murphy, who is listed as questionable at this point in time, is expected to play tonight. Probably not going to play big minutes and not going to factor in for DFS, but it is good news for him and this team overall. And then Jose Alvarado listed as questionable. He rolled his ankle in their most recent game. Then last but not least, we get down to the Denver Nuggets and the Phoenix Suns. On the Nuggets side, Peyton Watson still technically listed as probable, even though he's been playing like the last 3 games. So this illness really isn't a thing at this point in time. And then we have Aaron Gordon dealing with that heel injury. He's missed 3 or 4 games now at this point in time. We'll see whether or not he ultimately plays tonight or not. If he's ultimately out, Justin Holiday is going to look like a viable play once again. It's kind of a pay down option. And then we have Jamal Murray, who rolled his ankle in his first game back. So we'll see whether or not he plays tonight or not. He is questionable. And then Cam Carr is going to be out for the foreseeable future as well, since he's had that knee surgery. He has not played yet this season. And then for the Phoenix Suns, Bradley Beal, Damian Lee, both out once again. Devin Booker listed as questionable. He is also dealing with a similar ankle issue to Jamal Murray. So it'll be interesting to see if either one of those players ultimately end up playing in this game or not, or if one's in, one's out. It could open up some value there, but nothing too crazy at this point in time. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown on all the injuries in play for tonight's slate. As always, I will be listing all the injury updates as they come out throughout the day down in the comments below, as well as those starting lineups throughout the night. But with that being said, we'll get moving over to DraftKings and talk about my core picks for today's slate overall. So we're going to start off at the point guard position once again with Derrick Rose, $4,900. You're looking for 24, 25 out of him. Going against Dallas tonight, it's kind of a pace down spot just in general, but could be interesting with no Luka out there. Maybe they play a little bit quicker at that. I think sometimes maybe Luka slows them down, but that is just kind of my personal opinion. Do like Derrick Rose. He started their most recent game, played 27 minutes in that game. Probably could have played an extra minute or 2 there as well. So at this point in time, we don't have a ton of value. There's a lot of potential value that is going to be on the table tonight, especially as we do get closer to lock. But Derrick Rose looks like one of the better pay down options, at least early on today. Currently, I'm projected for 26 fantasy points tonight on the DraftKings side. If he goes out there and he's playing well once again, could easily outperform that price tag and that projection as well. Then we move down to shooting guard with Kyrie Irving, probably playing a little bit more of that point spot tonight, but just in general, he looks really good. $9,100. No Luka Doncic tonight. Looking for 45, 46 out of him. Have him projected for 46. Probably outperforms that more times than not. There is a little bit of downside to be had, but the upside is tremendous on a slate like tonight. And then at small forward, we're going to go to Keldon Johnson. $7,500. Looking for 37, 38 points out of him. If you want to go to Franz Wagner here, definitely could do that as well. Earlier in the day, I did have Cole Anthony in my core when I was doing this. I'm filming a little bit later today. So went to Keldon Johnson. If you want to make this Franz Wagner, definitely makes some sense there as well. Spurs versus the Pelicans, if there's no Victor Wembanyama, more opportunities to be had for a guy like Keldon Johnson just in general. So currently I'm projected for about 38 on the DraftKings side tonight. Then at power forward, we're going to go with big body David Roddy for the Memphis Grizzlies. $4,700, looking for 23, 24 points out of him. Going against Dallas tonight, could be a favorable matchup for him. So for what it's worth, you don't see too many 6'4", 6'5", 255-pound small forwards in the NBA, but a matchup against Dallas could make some sense for him. I do like the upside that he does present. He had 5 3-pointers in the first half last time out. Currently I'm projected for 25, 26. You're looking for 23, 24 out of him tonight. Then last but not least at the center position, very much one that could change throughout the day, but I do go with Joseph Nurkic of the Phoenix Suns, $6,900. Tough matchup against Nikola Jokic, but these are two guys that know each other very, very well. Nurkic has played pretty well versus him in the past, so definitely do like the upside that he does present. Currently have him projected for that 34, 35 fantasy points that you're looking for out of him at $3,900. Averaging about 33 on the season, but he's had some pretty big performances at that as well. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do have this year, you have $16,900 remaining, just over $5,600 per player. So looking a little bit like a balanced build, at least early on to start the day, but there's a ton of potential value on the table that could be knocking down the door any point in time. If that happens, we're going to be able to pay up for some guys. I really want to get to like Nikola Jokic on this slate if I can do it. Just didn't happen to do it with the early core that I do have at this point. But with that being said, we'll get moving over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there as well. So we're going to start off at the point guard position once again. We're going to go with Derrick Rose, $4,800, looking for 24 points out. I'm currently projected for 26 tonight. Obviously did start their most recent game, played 27 minutes in that game. Probably could have picked up a couple extra as well. So definitely do like the upside that he does present, as we've seen as recently as his most recent game. Then we move down to shooting guard, Kyrie Irving, $8,300. Going to be the ultimate chalk play on FanDuel today. 42 points is what you're looking for out of him. Currently, I'm projected for 45 on the FanDuel side tonight. Definitely has a ton of upside for more. Might have a little bit of downside for less, but it's a very good matchup against the Memphis Grizzlies team that is not the greatest on paper. Dallas isn't going to be that great without Luka and some of the other guys they're missing too as well, especially if Tim Hardaway Jr. is out. So look for Kyrie Irving to be doing a lot if they're going to ultimately end up winning this game once again. Then we move down to small forward. We got Keldon Johnson here, $7,000. Looks like a really good price tag for him. Looking for 35 points out. He's averaging about 33 so far on the season. And I currently am projected for 37 fantasy points on the FanDuel side tonight. If Victor Wembanyama ultimately ends up getting ruled out, he's going to look even better on tonight's slate as well. Then at power forward, we're going back to big body David Roddy once again, $4,600. Looking for 23 points out. Currently I'm projected for 25 on the FanDuel side. So definitely a guy I just like in general. If he's out there, if he's playing the minutes, it's going to be a favorable matchup for him. Maybe gets a couple extra rebounds since Dallas isn't the greatest rebounding team in the world, especially without Luka Doncic out there. Then last but not least, we're going down to Jaren Jackson Jr., $8,000, looking for 40 points down, averaging 35 so far in the season. So I really like the upside that he does present tonight overall. Him and Desmond Bane could be some really attractive options. Apparently Memphis just looks really good. I do like the pace that they play at, even if it's a little bit slower game versus Dallas. I like the fact that Luka's not going to be out there. These players for the Grizzlies are just pretty adequately priced at this point in time. They are ones that could change very much throughout the day. Like I said on the DraftKings side, if you want to get to Nikola Jokic at center, it's probably going to be something that's going to ultimately end up being pretty good today. So if you want to move Jaren Jackson up to that forward spot, definitely does make some sense there as well. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed on the FanDuel side, you have $27,300 remaining, just over $6,800 per player. So looking a little bit like that balanced build type of day once again, but there are going to be values that do open up throughout the day, even if it's only a 6-game main slate. Looks like your typical Friday where we're going to have some chaos ensue. But with that being said, these are my core picks for both DraftKings and FanDuel for today, December 1st. As always, if you have any questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then I do ask that you please note whether those questions are more FanDuel or DraftKings specific, just so I can best help you as quickly and efficiently as possible. And then as always, I will be leaving all the injury updates down in the comments below, as well as the starting lamps as they are announced throughout the night. And then about 15 to 20 minutes prior to lock, I'll leave an updated core in the comments. Probably going to be a lot of changes today, so definitely be on the lookout for that. They will be left as a pinned comment once again about 15 to 20 minutes prior to lock, or as those changes do become available throughout the night. If it's after that point in time, I'll leave them as a reply to that pinned comment overall. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have NBA DFS Monday through Friday in terms of the core pick videos, and then once a week have the NFL DFS player pool video. That typically comes out late Saturday morning, early Saturday afternoon, so definitely be on the lookout for that if that's something you're into as well as my cheat sheets that I do post up for NFL DFS over on the Sports Affiliation website. That is for both FanDuel and DraftKings. And then last but not least, if you are interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and the promo codes down in the description below. If you are a brand new user for any one of the 3 sites, which is BetUS, Parlay Play, or Prize Picks, you can get a pretty good first match deposit. For Parlay Play and Prize Picks, it's up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's up to 125% of your initial deposit, up to $2,500. So definitely some great opportunities out there. And then with that being said, if you have any questions related to sports betting, prop betting whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NBA DFS tonight.